Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another Let's Talk About D&D 5th Edition. In this video, what we're going to be talking about is one of my class favorites, the Paladin. Okay, now this is going to be an in-depth, well, it's going to be philosophical discussion about the Paladin, what he represents, how you should play him, as a referee, how you should deal with the Paladin. All those things should be in here. Now, uh, remember, we are going to be talking about 5th edition, but the edition doesn't matter when it comes to role playing, right? When you're role playing, it doesn't matter what rule set you're using. You've got a story behind your head. So don't limit yourself. And as a referee, don't limit what you can do with a paladin based on what the rules tell you to do. And as a player, don't base what you have to do based on what the rules tell you have to do. Make sure that you stay in character. If you stay in character, then everything's going to fall in line. So you don't even worry about that. Now remember, guys, this video is a Let's Talk video about the various things of D&D, and that's what this series is about, and it's mainly geared towards referees to level up their game so that they can be a better DM, so that their campaign world can be better and the players can have a lot more fun playing in their campaign. These videos are also meant for you to think about maybe just maybe there's other things, other aspects about any of the characters or any of the worlds or the monsters or anything, and they're not just cardboard cutout characters, and you're not just playing rules, you're playing a role-playing game. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what rule set we're using, but everything I talk about will be, well, not everything, but I am currently running a D&D 5th edition game, and this is what we're going to be focusing on. Okay, first of all, before we even get into the Paladin, the referee needs to know what his mythos is like. He needs to know, when I say that, I'm talking about your deities and good and evil ones. You need to know what your world is like. As a DM, you got to set the foundation. So you have to know, are you doing Greek gods? Are you doing Norse gods? Yes, no. Egyptian gods, maybe even. That's a cool campaign. Are you doing Aztecs or Cthulhu, or are you doing any deities? Now, in 5th edition, they're saying that they included those deities, but it's pretty much Forgotten Realms, right? So take the deities from Forgotten Realms, okay, because that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm not saying you have to do that because I'm doing it. I'm just saying I am doing that. I'm taking the Forgotten Realms, and I'm modifying it a little bit. I mean, I understand that there was the Sundering, and then there was the Time of Troubles, and there was a bunch of, like, gods got killed, and then they got brought back to life, and there's a whole storyline about the gods. Now, I've got my vision of how I want my gods to be in my universe, and it's very close to what Forgotten Realms is, but but it's not exact, right? Why do I do it this way? Because first of all, it's the way I want it to be. It's the way I feel like it should have transpired. And it keeps the players on edge. Not edge, but guessing. Like, is that god really alive? Or is he really dead? Or did he even die? Or first of all, think about this as a referee and a player, because this is for players too. How would your player, or your character, how would your character know anything about the gods? Anything, ever. Probably through word of mouth, right? So you're a priest, you probably, you grew up in wherever you grew up, and you went to church every 10 day you went to church, and the priest there said, oh, all the gods are dead. I mean, now, because it's a magical world, and a lot of the high priests can actually divine, so they know, But you don't know. You only know what you've been told, right? Unless you are a high priest, then that's a different story. But you can say the players really shouldn't know anything about the deities other than what maybe they've read in the book, right? Because a lot of them are going to read in the book, they're going to get online, they're going to check all kinds of stuff. But if you make it your world and you make it similar, then those stories could be not accurate. I mean, yes, they're stories brought down from generation to generation because this all that stuff happened over 100 years. So your universe can be unique, and it doesn't have to be cookie cutter straight out of the book. But it can be if you like it that way. That's the way you can do it. Like if you don't want to worry about all that, you can do that. But before we start talking about paladins, I wanted to say you have to decide what gods you're allowing, what gods are being worshipped in your universe, in your world that you're creating. Before you allow any player to make a character, you need to know this. You need to take some time before you make your campaign and decide what gods there are. Why? And I know we're talking about paladins today, but the reason why is because your players are going to want to play clerics and they're going to want to play paladins. And then those clerics are going to have to choose a deity. The paladin has to choose a deity, right? And the other players might also want to choose a deity. And if they do this, you need to know what deities are allowed. Oh, we're using the Greek gods. Cool. Your world is full of Greek gods. That's cool. You might be playing in Greece, with Hercules and all that stuff. That's up to you, right? You got the Pegasus, and that's where a lot of these creatures came from. Greek mythology too, like Pegasus. I'm just using that as an example. But Kraken, what else? Medusa. That's all Greek mythological stuff. Okay, so you might feel like the Greek gods are kind of the thing for your campaign. You're going to run in and around Greece and Macedonia and all that. That's cool. That's cool. Or you might say, hey, we're going to do Egyptian gods. You have Set and Anubis and all these other gods, right? Okay, the reason why you do that is because your clerics and your paladins, they have a stricture, right? They have, you might call it a structure. These strictures will tell them and guide them on how they should act, right? When dealing with the world, the universe, other deities, monsters, other players, and that's what these strictures kind of give them, kind of like rules to live by. And each god has different strictures, and you need to know what they are, or at least have a really good idea of what they might be. You don't have to be exact, and you kind of just clue it into the player at first level, but as he gains levels, he learns more about his god, and and you as a player might, or as a referee, might develop more about the god, and you might have a general idea of all the gods, and then when your paladin says, I want to be a paladin of Tyr, right, the war god of justice, you might say, okay, and then when you go home that night, you go, okay, this is all about Tyr. You type him up, you figure it out, you put him in your campaign, and then the next week you come back and say, here you go, cleric, here you go, paladin. This is everything you know about Tyr. And don't give him all the information. Just give him enough to wet his lips, wet his appetite, so that he's wanting to learn more because you've just kind of clued him in. Like, this is what you know about Tyr. I'm just using Tyr as an example, right? And then as you play and he's making decisions and doing things, gaining levels, maybe he's finding documents, maybe he's actually divining with the world, the universe or whatever, and maybe he goes on quests that that helps him learn more about his deity, right? Because when you have a cleric and a paladin in your party, or either or both, or multiples, they chose that class for a reason, right? Usually the clerics choose it to be a healer for the party, right? I'm going to be the healer. I'm going to walk around with cure wounds and blah, blah, blah on you all the time. That's boring for a cleric. I'm going to tell you, that's what they're expected to do, and they do it, and they pick that class to help out their friends. So you got to make it exciting for them. You got to, give them a little extra love because they don't get to do everything everybody else is getting to do, right? Okay. Now, but when you come to the Paladin chooses the class because a lot of times they want to be the hero. Okay, they want to be that unwavering light of good that leads parties into adventure and wants to be responsible for overthrowing the villain. Okay, so Paladin people who choose Paladins, I got a certain type of character that they want to play. Now, it's not necessarily the player. The player isn't always like this, or isn't like this all the time. But when they pick that as a character, that's what they want that character to be. Okay. Now, in the old rules, in the old edition, second edition, first edition, you had to have a 17 charisma and a bunch of other stats to be a paladin, right? Your strength had to be 15, your dex had to be a certain number, your constitution had to be... Basically, every stat had a limitation, and 17 charisma was one of them. And most fighters, paladin's a fighter, it was like a subclass of fighter, like ranger used to be a fighter. Most fighters wouldn't want to, and if you rolled a bunch of stats, and they had maybe an 18 somewhere and a bunch of other 16s, 14s in their rolls, they didn't want to put it in charisma, right? They were going, I don't want to put this in frickin' charisma. So I'm going to put it in strength. And I'm going to be a fighter. So what you wound up, what the dynamic was, and this is before the new, I'm not sure if 3.5 had it, but I know that in 5th edition, you don't have to have a 17 charisma. But before that, what you noticed in your universe is that there were very few paladins. There was 1 in a million. Actually 1 in, a million of people would play paladins. Everybody wanted to play paladin because it's so cool to be a paladin, but nobody wanted to put their high number in charisma. And so a few of us didn't care about our stats, and we cared about our stats in a different way, not how it affected our gameplay, but how it affected our role playing. Because I'm a role player, I'm not a game player. I don't play the rules, I play the story. So if I wanted a paladin, I would put my 18 in charisma. Screw it. So what do I got? A 12 strength? Whatever. I got me an 18 charisma, baby. Okay, so so let's think about that. In the old days, there's very few paladins. Not every other fighter was a paladin. In 5th edition, every 3rd fighter is a paladin. I've had a paladin in every party that I've ran so far. Okay, with making paladins a lot more accessible to players, and by not giving them any minimum requirements. None of the classes have minimum requirements. They have recommended stats. So like if you have a high stat, put it in this. If you want to cast spells well, put it in this. And that's not the same as, hey, you can't be this class unless you have at least a this. So they've gone about it a different way. What that allows is it kind of waters down the market, because now everybody can play whatever they want, and that's good for players. They also used to have an alignment restriction. They had to be 1 alignment, lawful good. They had to be lawful good. And why make a paladin lawful good? Well, because it fell in with their philosophy, and it also limited players on how to play their character, because, you know, alignments dictated how you played your character, and vice versa. But having a lawful good alignment, a lot of players didn't want to be lawful good. So that placed an additional restriction, not just the 17 charisma, but also you had to be lawful good. So the people that were willing to go with the 17 charisma weren't willing to go with lawful good. A lot of them were. So that reduced how many more paladins you had. Okay, but now you can be any alignment. You could be chaotic neutral and be a paladin. Okay, and that, according to the rules, is the way it goes. Because one, they've changed where they say that you do not get your power from your god. The power doesn't come divinely from the god and focused through you, casting it out like healing hands and things like that. They've changed it, and they said that paladins get their power from within because they are very devout or dedicated to their deity. So because of their oath to their deity, they are extremely powerful, and they have this ability to cast spells, heal, and stuff like that. I'm here to tell you that is bullshit. That is not a paladin. That's not what you would expect, or expect a paladin's abilities or powers to come from. That's totally wrong. What that does, it takes the onus off of the deity and places it on the player, and that means that the player doesn't have to really kind of worry about it, which, if you're a paladin, you always worry about it. In my universe, the paladin has to be lawful, right? Doesn't have to be good. He can be lawful evil, he can be lawful good, doesn't matter. He has to be lawful. He can be lawful neutral too, actually. It has to be lawful. And then he has to have a deity, right? And he has to have a deity that's within one band of his alignment. So if he decides to choose lawful good, then the deity he chooses has to be good or neutral. Can't be evil. That's just crazy, right? If you choose lawful evil, then you have to choose a deity that's lawful neutral or lawful evil. Or just evil. Evil or neutral. Doesn't have to be lawful. The deity can be chaotic, but the paladin's going to be lawful. Okay, now why do I put a lawful restriction on a paladin? And it's mainly because they're following a strict order of things. And so that's what lawful is. Go back to my alignment video and you'll understand why I say this. But if you follow the strict order, guided instructions from your church, paladins are from a church, or from your cleric, because you're following the orders of your clerics, you're defending the church, you're basically like a Templar knight, you're a knight that defends the church. And that's why you have to be lawful. I don't allow evil in my universe. So in my universe, you can't be lawful evil paladin. That's fine. But NPCs can be. I can have the villain or the story arc is a lawful evil paladin, or maybe they're going up against an evil church, and that church is guarded by paladins, and that would be lawful evil. But in my universe, players are going to be good. So basically, I'm requiring any petty that plays a paladin in my universe to be lawful good. Plain and simple, right? So now that good character, that lawful good character, can have a good or a neutral god. So if you want to worship nature, or if you want to worship, you know, any of the good gods is fine. Now, just because the god is chaotic neutral, let's say, the paladins aren't going to be chaotic neutral. They're going to be lawful because they're following the strictures of the church. So the deity can be like crazy chaotic, but the Paladins aren't going to be that way. So now, as a player, you got to understand that. You're not going to be chaotic. You're not going to be running around like craziness. You have a strict order. And in the rules, they say that your Paladin gets your powers from yourself within because of your oath. That's bull. That's bull. That's bull. You get your power from your deity. So you have to follow those strictures that a deity sets forward. So if you stop following these strictures, your deity might punish you. And a simple way to punish a paladin is to strip him of his powers for a day. It's a referee tool. Let's say he has a stricture where he has to shelter the weak. Paladins should do that anyway. Good players should do that anyway. But if he has a stricture where he has to shelter the weak, it's raining. I'm going to use this one like literally. Let's say it's raining and you come across a family in the road. They're homeless and they're getting rained on, and the paladin just walks past them because he's on a mission, right? He's got to go get that. He's got to go get that jeweled necklace from the jeweler for his teammate that asked him to go get it, right? So he's on a mission. So I'm gonna go do it, and but then he sees the homeless people getting rained on, and he just says, "Oh, sucks to be them." So the god looks down on that and says, he's not sheltering the weak like I wanted him to. So what am I gonna do? Suck all of his power away from him. The next time the paladin goes to cast any kind of spell, laying on hands, divine smite, or any of his abilities, right? Because all these abilities come from his deity, not from within. So when he goes to do these things, you take it away from him. Boom. You don't change his alignment. You don't fall in paladin. You don't do any of that. You just take one of his abilities. You can even take lay on hands away, or take all of his abilities away. I like to take all of them away, because then it impacts him sooner, like when he goes to do something, because he could do any of his abilities, and then when he goes to do any of them, it doesn't work, and that seems right. So maybe maybe if you want to be subtle about it, maybe his holy symbol gets tarnished, like it becomes like a silver one turns black or something, right? And then he's like, wow, what the hell is going on with my holy symbol, right? Tries to clean it off. It doesn't come off or something. You could really get into, and what does that have to do with the game? Doesn't. That's all role playing. That's all in your character's head, right? So now he's invested. He's like, why is my holy symbol messed up, And then, or why is my power not working, And then make him go find out. Don't tell him. Don't say, hey, it's because you walked past those guys over there and there was rain in there. No, don't tell him. Don't make it easy for him. Players that play paladins usually don't want it easy. They want the challenge. So give him the challenge. So he loses his power. He goes to the church and he says, Father, or whoever is priest, whatever you call their priests, why don't I have my power, right? I don't know. What did you do? What did you do today? Oh, I saw this group of people, blah, 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 and they walked right past them. Give me like 15 Hail Marys and whip yourself on the back and do somersaults and then give the church 100 gold, and we'll pray for you, right? And then, and spend 24 hours in, what do they call it? Man, what do they call it? It's not solitude. Okay, there's a term used that the knights did where they would sit 24 hours in a church all by themselves. They can't eat, drink, sleep, move, nothing, and they have to spend that entire time praying. I can't remember what that's called, but look it up. Make those guys do that, give him his powers back. And if he's not willing to do that or unable to do that, then don't give him his powers back and make him suffer. Because and your player, it sounds like it's punishment. In role playing, that is a reward, because players love struggle. They want to overcome adversity. That's why they play the game. You got monsters, you got traps, you got all kinds of stuff. Why do they play a game to fight monsters? Because they want to get past they want to win. And if there's no challenge, then there's no winning. Now let's talk a little bit about role-playing a paladin. We're not going to talk about stats yet. I'm going to go into detail about that at the end of the video. And this is a long video. And I appreciate everybody that's watching this video and learning and hearing my point of view on this. I know it's not easy to sit through an hour video or 2 hours of a video, but I want to kind of share to you what role-playing a paladin is about. You're not mindless. You're not unforgiving. You're not unwavering. You're not one-dimensional. Okay, I could go on with things that players have a misconception about paladins. Some players, specifically the ones that don't play paladins, think of paladins as the guy that's going to get them in trouble. He's the guy that's going to charge in Leroy Jenkins style into a fight. Leroy Jenkins! Right. No, paladins aren't stupid. Paladin doesn't equate stupidity. A 3 intelligence equates stupidity. 5 intelligence, probably. 5 or less I would consider to be stupid. 6 to 9 is a little bit slow. 10 or better is like average intelligence. So if you got a paladin with a 10 intelligence, he's not going to just be a Leroy Jenkins, right? He's not stupid. And if you're playing a paladin, don't play a paladin that's stupid. Your God says you've got to defeat evil wherever you see it. So he goes into a cave and he sees 100 giant spiders. And they're all eating this damsel. Something astronaut, like 15 ancient dragons are in there, and they're all red dragons, whatever. Your paladin is not going to say, Leroy Jenkins, and run. No, he's not stupid. You got to temper your enthusiasm for doing the right thing and stopping evil wherever it is with some smarts. You got to think about it. And as a paladin, don't be stupid. Don't play, I'm a paladin, I'm a robot, I will charge in. No, make yourself a little more than one-dimensional. That's not all paladins are. Paladins are leaders. They're leaders. Why? Because they're supposed to have a 17 charisma. These guys are the guys that take their party and they say, all right, guys, let's get together. Let's figure this out. Let's find out why we've got to kill all these spiders and rescue this damsel or whatever. We can't just go charging in. That's what a paladin does. He guides, directs, leads. Lead does not mean charge in. It means getting your guys to come up with a plan. Maybe the wizard's got some kind of spell that he can use. The paladin's going to know these things. He's going to know. He's very charismatic. So he's going to know his party. He's going to be chums. He's going to be, hey man, what's going on? You know, how are you guys doing? That's paladins aren't. Hey, how's it going? All the time. No. You don't get a 17 charisma by being stoic, right? You don't get a 17 charisma by being standoffish. In the new rules, you don't have to have a 17 charisma, but I am using that as a basis of how paladins are supposed to act based on original stats, original requirements. And again, with the whole one-track mind thing, let's say you capture an orc. I'm going to use it as an example. Let's say you capture an orc. Some players would play it. They'll take a paladin and say, we got to kill him. Boom! Bash his head open. No, a paladin doesn't do that. That's not what paladins are about. If their god says, stop evil wherever it is, stop it. Crush evil. Destroy evil, let's say, right? And you get this orc. He knows the way to this evil wizard's lair. I'm just throwing some scenarios out. Let's say he knows the directions to this evil wizard's lair. Are you going to, knowing the orc is evil, going to kill the orc, just like, poof, dead? I don't care what he knows. He's evil. He's got to die. No, that's being very one-track minded, being unforgiving, being stupid, right? And that's not a paladin. The paladin would say, you pull him up into his face and yell and spit in his face and say, where's this evil wizard's, you know, and he might get a little, might get a little torturous. It might, right? So you're saying that killing him would be better than finding out where the evil wizard is? No, the evil wizard's a bigger threat. Okay. So yeah, you're going to question him. Now, what if he says, yeah, he's over there on the hill, right there. Are you going to stab the orc in the heart because he gave you the information? No, no. You might imprison him. You might tie him up, take him with you. You might take him back to town and find out what they want to do with him. You might, you know, there's a whole lot of things you could do with him, but you're not just going to off him. And if the rest of the party wants to off him, you as the authority on law and justice and goodness will intervene for the orc. You'll step in and say, wait a second, guys. This guy, he's evil, but we can't just kill him just because he's evil. You know, we've got to give him a, you know, we got to, and that's where the moral dilemma comes in. Do you just kill off monsters just, what does that make you? That makes you the murderer. It makes you the evil creature. You can't just let him free because he'll go about doing his evil things again and go tell somebody that you're coming or something. So you got to lock him up, tie him up. And then you got to weigh, like, we don't have the resources or the time and all that stuff. And that puts the challenge on the players. That makes them role play, makes them decide, make decisions that aren't comfortable with. And when you make the players make decisions that they're not comfortable with, that leads to good stories. Okay, so now let's get back to that orc. Let's say the orc says, yeah, I've been trying to escape this evil wizard. He's controlling my whole tribe. We don't want to be raiding and destroying the trees and killing the elves. And we don't want to do any of that. We were actually heading north because we're having a pilgrimage for their god or whatever, right? Groomsh. we don't want to do this, but this evil wizard like captured our king and now he's making us do this or something like that, right? Are you going to just off the orc? No. What are you going to do? You're going to say, all right, orc number one, whatever his name is. Lead on. Show us where this tower is, right? And he goes, all right, come on. And he shows you the tower. You go in, and it's true. The evil wizard does have the king, and you rescue the king, and now he's grateful that you've rescued him. Are you going to just go off all the orcs? No. Right? Okay, so you're going to let them do their thing. You might make them swear that they won't come back or do something. Who knows, right? But paladins aren't one-track minded. They're very forgiving. They're understanding. They're friendly. Don't play a paladin that's not friendly. If you play a paladin and he's not friendly, then you're not playing a paladin. What is one of the things that paladins are always trying to do? They're trying to get you, the non-believer, or someone that believes something wrong, to join his faith, to believe what he believes. So he's always going to be trying to convert you, and you can't convert someone by being a jerk or being an idiot. You convert them by talking to them, being friends with them, kind of showing them how it's done and why they might want to do it your way. So don't play paladins like idiots. And don't be one-track minded, and don't be blinded by what you think your strictures are telling you have to do. Don't worry about that. Play a smart, charismatic, just, lawful character. Now let's talk about stats. Let's talk about numbers. I hate doing this because that's not really what these videos are about, but I promised you that I would. When you're creating a paladin, let's talk about hit points. Now there are D10 hit points. That's good. That's what a fighter gets, right? D10. They can use all armor. And this is weird. Why doesn't it just say all weapon? It doesn't. It says simple weapons and martial weapons. But isn't there only simple and martial weapons? Okay, I'm confused. They're not proficient with tools, which I can understand that. They lived a life in the church or whatever. They have advantage on saving throw and charisma. Hey. And wisdom. Wisdom, why? Because cleric spells, right? Except they use charisma. And then they can choose two from athletics, insight, intimidation. How do you get intimidation if you don't... Hey, orc! Give me... That's intimidating, right? Okay, so there's intimidation. Medicine, because, you know, they like to heal and do all that good stuff. Persuasion. Hey, guys, how are we going to do this? Help me out. Show me how to do this, or let's do that, or friendly. That's persuasion. And religion. Of course, you got to know about your god if you're going to be a paladin. And equipment. What do they start with? Well, a martial weapon and a shield, or two martial weapons. A priest pack or an explorer's pack. So are they a paladin that lives at a church, or are they a paladin that goes out exploring? And then you got chainmail and a holy symbol. So they start off with chainmail. That's pretty powerful armor right there for a starting character, for a first level guy. That's like 700 something gold, right? That's freaking outstanding. Okay, now they have divine sense. Okay, now let's talk about divine sense. Oh my gosh, I had, I don't know, was it a half-hour argument with another player about divine sense? It wasn't an argument because I'm the referee and what I say goes, but it was a discussion. Let's say it was a discussion. He was trying to give me the way he thought it should work, and I told him the way it did work, and we just went back and forth. And guess who won? This is what divine sense says. The presence of strong evil registers on your senses like a noxious odor. Okay, in the old game, you used to have this cleric or paladin ability called detect evil, and it was kind of like a spell that your cleric or your paladin would cast, and then evil creatures would be identified, like, hey, that guy's evil, this guy's evil. Well, isn't that kind of like that's detecting their alignment, but only if it's evil, right? And they pretty much did away with that with something like this, divine sense. The powerful good rings like heavenly music in your ears. So when you're near someone that's good, you say, "Oh wow, man, he's a good character," right? As an action, you can open your awareness to detect such forces. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of a celestial, fiend, or undead. They didn't say, it doesn't say, until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any evil creature. That's not what it says. It says celestial, fiend, or undead. Because you're smelling for evil creatures, not people. Not evil human beings. Not orcs. Not red dragons. You know the type also. Hey, that's a celestial, fiend, or undead. Of any being whose presence you sense, but not its identity. Like, you wouldn't know it was Count Strahd, vampire. You also notice if a place or object has been consecrated or desecrated. Okay, that I can go with. Because remember, guess what? Your powers come from religion, not from within. So your God, when you ask, I think of this as kind of like using a divine sense, and that's what it's called, divine sense. You're using an action to kind of allow the divine energies, not through your nose, your divine energies. I know there's a way it's worded, but that's not really what's going on. Divine energies to come to you and let you, so you can kind of see and feel the celestials, fiends, and undead, and also hallowed realms. Lay on hands. Lancelot from Arthur, he could lay on hands because his faith was so strong with the Lord that he could, when I think it was Arthur, like he knocked him down. It might not have been Arthur. It might have been the old rusty armor knight. I'm trying to remember. But either way, Lancelot, he ran over to him and he put his hands on him and healed him. He was laying there, sprawled out, and Lancelot comes up, touches him. There's no aura, nothing like that, because, but he healed him just by touching him. But in the game, you have 5 times your level and hit points that you can just run up, touch somebody, and you can give them anywhere between 1 and your maximum points. You get them all back after a long rest. So, but if you spend 5 points, you can actually cure a disease. Okay, so you could like, or 1 poison. So let's say he's drunk. You could go 5 points, poof, you're now sober. You know, because they consider alcohol poisoning to be poison, right? And then you got, let's say you got poison, he's bleeding, oh, I'm paralyzed. You can spend 5 points, go poof, and you're not. So it's kind of like curing wounds, healing, divine, all that comes from the Lord anyway, or your God, and so poof. So, and you got to touch them. And guess what? It has no effect on undead. I mean, what is there to heal? Okay, then at second level you can get fighting style, and those fighting styles, there's 4. Defense, get +1 bonus to your AC. Dueling, +2 damage rolls when you're wielding a weapon in one hand and no other weapon, so you're just fighting with one weapon. You get a +2 bonus to damage. And then great weapon fighting, when you roll a 1, that's two-handed weapons, right? When you roll a 1 or a 2, you can re-roll those. You must have the two-handed weapon or versatile property, so it's got to be two-handed weapon. Now, it says versatile properties. So if I get a longsword, which is versatile, now I'm starting to get into the combat rules, but let's say I get a longsword, it's versatile, and I'm using a shield, can I use great weapon fighting with it? The answer is yes, because it's the weapon, it's not the way you're fighting with it. Okay. So yes, you can reroll your 1s and 2s. The last one is protection. When a creature you can see attacks a target other than you that's within 5 feet, so you're within 5 feet of a friend, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on that attack roll. And you have to have a shield when doing it. So basically you stick your shield out. At second level you can start casting spells. These are cleric spells. And cleric spells are not, to me, they're not spells. To me, a spell, it only comes from a wizard. You're channeling, I consider it channeling divine energies from your God through you with something that resembles the effect that looks like a spell being cast. But it's not technically a spell, okay? It's just a game mechanic. They call it spells. Okay, so at second level, you can draw upon the divine magic through meditation and prayer to cast spells as a cleric does. Charisma is a spellcasting ability. Your spell attack is your proficiency plus your charisma modifier, and your save is all. And this is the same pretty much with every spellcaster. It's 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your stat modifier, which is charisma in this case. And you can use a holy symbol instead of any ingredients. That's a focus. What's cool about the Paladin is if he's wielding a shield, the holy symbol can be on his shield, and so he can be sword and shield and cast spells. The great sword guy, the guy who's fighting with the great sword, cannot. He has to let go, grab his holy symbol, hold it out while he's holding his great sword in one hand. It can be pretty much anything. As long as you've got your holy symbol with you, you can cast these spells. Now there's something called Divine Smite. This is a most really popular spell starting at second level. You can expend a spell slot to deal radiant damage to a target. In addition to the weapon damage, you deal 2d8. It's pretty good. That's if you expend a first level spell slot, and every additional level of spell slot that you give adds another d8 to a maximum of 5d8. A fourth level spell slot and you get 5d8. And if you're hitting an undead creature or a fiend, you just automatically add an extra d8. Divine Health, at third level, you become immune to disease. And then also at third level, this is when most characters come into their own. All classes come into their own at third level. When you reach third level, you swear an oath. What the oath is, and this is the way I kind of look at it, your oath is your responsibility or your job inside the church. We'll go through the different oaths. When you take an oath, you're basically saying, this is what I'm going to do for the church. This is how I'm going to do it. What are paladins? Okay, paladins are defenders of the church. So if the church gets attacked, you're going to have like guards, a security force, an army of warriors, and those guys are the paladins. They fight for the church. They also have guys that are adventurers. I say adventurers, but that's not really what they're doing. They're going out into the world, spreading the word of their Lord amongst the masses. They're converting. They're far-ranging. So you got that aspect, and then there's a few others. Okay, but that's pretty much those two things are what paladins do. Oath of Devotion is kind of like Lancelot. They're the cavaliers, the white knights, the holy warriors. They meet the ideal of the knight in shining armor. They have tenets. They're honesty, courage, compassion, honor, duty. Yeah, they can turn the unholy, and they have a sacred weapon. They have, at 7th level, they have an aura of devotion. So anybody within 10 feet of you can't be charmed. At 18th level, it increases to 30 feet. At 15th level, you have purity of spirit. So it's like protection from good and evil. And then at level 20, you're the Holy Nimbus. As an action, you create an aura of sunlight for a minute. Bright light shines from you in a 30-foot radius. Whenever an enemy creature starts its turn within the light, the creature takes 10 radiant damage. Okay, and then that's the Oath of Devotion. Then you got Oath of the Ancients. Tenets of the Oath of the Ancients have been preserved for uncounted centuries. The oath emphasizes on principles of good above any concerns of law and chaos. Its 4 central principles are simple. Kindle the light, shelter the light, preserve your own light, and be the light. It's mercy and kindness, good, beauty, love, laughter, delight in song and laughter, beauty and art, and be glorious beacon for all those who despair. You get nature's wrath and turn the faithless. At 7th level, you get aura of warding. 15th level is undying sentinel. And at 20th level, you got elder champion. So at 20th level, you can assume the form of an ancient force of nature. Your skin might turn green or take on a bark-like texture. Your hair might become leafy or moss-like. You might sprout antlers or a line-like mane. Using this action, you undergo the transformation. You heal 10 points, and enemy creatures within 10 feet of you had disadvantage on saving throws against your paladin spells. Then there's what's called the Oath of Vengeance. This is what your power gamers choose. Your non-role players will pick Oath of Vengeance. Oath of Vengeance, or you as a referee can reword or Oath of Vengeance to something else, and that's what I strongly recommend you doing, because it is a pretty cool oath. It's just the way it's worded, it sounds like it's a negative. Oath of Vengeance is the solemn commitment to punish those who have committed a grievous sin. Okay, so you become the Inquisitor. You're the one charging around going, "You're a sinner!" Boom! And you kill them. Or they're hanging everybody or whatever. And that's not what it's meant to be. That's not what it's meant to be. You're supposed to have had something happen to you or your family or your church or something like that, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to take this oath of vengeance on these guys because it's my solemn duty to go right the wrong. Not just anybody. You're supposed to choose a specific subject for vengeance. Okay. The tenets of the Oath of Vengeance vary by paladin. Good. All tenets revolve around punishing wrongdoers by any means necessary. If you have a paladin in your group that has Oath of Vengeance, allow him to get his vengeance and then make him change his oath, because now his vengeance is satisfied. Or change it to just like reword it a little bit and call it like Oath of the Avenger, maybe. He's the guy that his duty is to get out there and be strict about his code and go out there and really, be the hardcore paladin and not the softcore one. That's kind of what I think it should be, not the way they worded it. The way they worded it makes you the bad guy. Okay, fight the greater evil. Facing the choice of fighting or sworn foe or combating a lesser evil, you choose the greater evil. No mercy for the wicked. Ordinary foes might win by mercy, but my sworn enemies do not. By any means necessary. My qualms can't get in the way of exterminating my foes. And restitution. If my foes wreak ruin on the world, it is because I failed to stop them. This is why, okay, those are the tenets. Your players don't, they don't care about that. This is what they care about. What do I get? What are my powers? This is why I say a power gamer picks this. Abjure enemy. As an action, you present your holy symbol and speak a prayer of denunciation. The creature must make a wisdom saving throw unless it is immune, and it becomes frightened. So basically, you can frighten any of your enemies. That's powerful. This is all at 3rd level. Vow enmity. As a bonus action, you can utter a vow of enmity against a creature within 10 feet. Using your tonality, you gain advantage on attack rolls for a minute. 7th, you get Relentless Avenger. Basically, you can stop someone's retreat. Soul of Vengeance, starting at 15th. You speak your vow of enmity, gives you greater power over your foe. You can use your reaction to make a melee attack. It's not even a bonus action. You just use your reaction. Everybody gets what? 1 reaction? 1 bonus action? 1 action normally, right? So you got this reaction that if you don't have anything to use it, it just sits there. Well, with this Soul of Vengeance, boom, you can just use a reaction to make a melee attack. Avenging Angel at 20th level, you assume the form of an angel. Wing sprout, you can fly. You have an Aura of Menace, 30 feet. They have to make a wisdom saving throw or become frightened by you. Yeah, that's why players choose it. Because it's like extra super powerful for a paladin. So when I have a paladin that wants to choose this, I really have to think about it. And I really have to think, how is this going to work in my campaign? Because remember, you don't want a player's choice mechanically to ruin your campaign. So discuss it with the player before he chooses it. Don't just leave every choice open. That's what I'm saying. There is one more oath. It's in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. And it does talk about paladins and how they interact with the Forgotten Realms universe and how that's a little bit different than what it says in the player's handbook. This is what it says if you don't have the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. It says some people are warriors of superior virtue. They exemplify a host of traits that folks consider honorable, just, and good. These warriors aspire to be the best people they can. When such a warrior also has great devotion to a particular deity, that God can reward the faithful with a measure of power, making that person a paladin. Different paladins, orders, and Forgotten Realms emphasize different elements of righteous behavior, but all paladins are expected to hold true a common set of virtues. And here we go. Liberality. Be generous and tolerant. This is all paladins. Good faith. Be honest and keep promises. Where does it say be stupid? No. Okay, sorry. Courtesy. Treat others with respect despite how they treat you. Give honor to those above your station. Earn the respect of those below your station. So far, so good. I'm agreeing with all this. Lawfulness. Laws exist to bring prosperity to those under them. Unjust laws must be overturned or changed in a reasonable fashion. Bravery. Gain glory through battle. Defend any charge unto death. Pride in one's actions. Lead by example. Let your deeds speak your intentions. Humility in one's deeds. Do not boast or accept rewards undue to you. Unselfishness. Share resources, especially with those who have the most need. Good-temperedness. Render service cheerfully and without disdain. Wisdom. Cause the most good through the least harm. Piety. Be faithful to the precepts of your God. Kindness. Protect the weak. Grant mercy to those who seek redemption. So if somebody says something like, oh man, I didn't mean to do it, I'm sorry, please forgive me, you're just going to kill him? No, not a paladin. Honor. Hold true to the code. Death before dishonor. You know, all that good stuff. Then there's a bunch of orders, but here it is. Sacred Oath. Order of the Crown. The Oath of the Crown is sworn to the ideals of civilization and the spirit of the nation. So basically you're swearing fealty to your lord, the king, even though you're a paladin of this church. if that makes sense. All right. Tenets of the Crown, basically law, loyalty, courage, and responsibility. And your divinity is, you have champion challenge, which means you challenge someone, and then turn the tide, which means as a bonus action, you can bolster injured creatures with your channel divinity. Each creature gains hit points, d6 plus your charisma modifier. At 7th level, divine allegiance. You can substitute your health with that of a target creature, taking damage. And then unyielding spirit. 15th level, you advantage on saving throws to avoid becoming paralyzed or stunned. And level 20, Exalted Champion. Your presence on the field of battle is an inspiration to those dedicated to your cause. Use your action to gain this benefit for an hour. You have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons. That's half damage. Your allies have advantage on death saving throws. That's pretty cool. Roll 2 dice instead of just 1. And then you have advantage on wisdom saving throws, as do your allies. So I think I've talked enough about paladins for today. I could go on for hours and hours and hours about paladins and philosophy and things like that. Paladin is my favorite character class because of the challenges that it presents to players and to referees. And as a player, when I'm not refereeing, when I'm a player, I would pick Paladin because it is the hardest character class to play. I don't play easy. I don't want to be chaotic neutral rogue. That's too easy. My decisions, I don't have any decisions to make. I can do whatever I want. So I wouldn't play that. I would play maybe a cleric because you got to follow his deity's tenets, a paladin for sure, maybe a wizard because I got to deal with all that spell booking and stuff like that. So I prefer to challenge myself. And I think, based on my 35 years of experience, that players want a challenge. That's why they play D&D. That's why they play role-playing games. If a role-playing game was roll a die, if you roll 1d6, if you roll a number between 1 and 6, you win, no one will play. No one will play that. But there are players out there that want to be better. They want the most abilities so that they can win. But there are other players that care about their character and their story. And they want adversity because adversity makes for a good story. All right. Thanks for coming out and checking out this video. I think my next class video is going to be Ranger because I've got some things to say about that. And I'll catch you next time.